All right, joining us tonight is one of the most charismatic wrestlers in recent memory, whether he was hunting in the jungles of South Africa or reminding us that it's party time all the time. He was wrestling all over the world, entertaining us. Please don't be a lemon, and welcome the one and only Aldo Rose. Aldo, man, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. How are you doing?
Doing great.
Now, Aldo, we've got a lot to talk about, so let's just kind of get right into it. Now, you're originally from South Africa. How did you find the world of professional wrestling in South Africa, and how did you kind of make that transition into a career?
Oh, I mean, I started wrestling, I think when I was must have been about 15, turning 16 in South Africa, and obviously it's very different on that side than it is in the States. But I did it there for a long time. In fact, I was semi-retired before I actually even tried out for the WWE, and was doing commentary for a program on that side, and ended up doing a tryout that Justin Gabriel told me about. He had already been signed, I think, for about a year at the time, and then came out for that, and tried out with 50 other guys, and was signed about 3 months later. So, and the rest is history, as they say.
How different is wrestling in South Africa compared to maybe the United States?
Oh, it's completely different, completely two different animals. I mean, the wrestling in South Africa, the style is very different, and so a nice way to put it, I guess. I think at the times people didn't really know what they were doing in South Africa. We would learn from the Americans that would come in and would pick up certain things as guys would come in and out of the country, but the South African style was completely different. And then coming to the States, it was actually the first time I properly learned all the aspects of it. And I was learning from Dr. Tom and Steve Kern and Norman Smiley and all those guys. So, I mean, that was the first time I actually, all the pieces started to get put together for me. I actually used to watch tape and slow-mo the tape, and that's how I'd figure out what was going on. Training was pretty much, you have the ring, take a bump, the rest is your problem. In South Africa. It's a totally different animal.
Now, when you came to the U.S., you got into Florida Championship Wrestling, and you became Leo Kruger. Now, that's a very different Leo Kruger than we would see later in your career. So what was the kind of goal for your character when you first arrived in Florida Championship Wrestling, or were they just trying to get you off the ground?
Well, that's the thing. I think when you first come in, it's just a matter of, especially if you're coming in as, I was a foreigner, you pretty much had to be taught a lot of the stuff. I think if you're coming in and you're established, it's different. But if you're coming in with my background, it's pretty much just getting the basics down. And Dr. Tom was always one of those guys where it's either you swim or you sink, And so he was very quick to get you going, and then would make a judgment from there as to where to put you. But Leo Kruger initially probably had very little character or persona. It's only once you start getting under the radar that they started to mold it, and I started to mold it, and I had a lot more say in it when we were still in FCW and stuff like that. Once it went to NXT, you had a lot less say in what the character was.
Sure. Now, who would you say helped you out the most while you were down in FCW?
Dr. Tom, Norman Smiley. I have to say Norman Smiley. I mean, Norman Smiley was just one of the best human beings, I think, just in general, that I've ever met. Just such a good human being. And he is probably someone that I don't know a single soul that does not like Norman Smiley. So he's a great person, and you learned a lot from Dr. Tom. I enjoyed my years in FCW. I think they were some of my favorite years. Now that I look back, probably some of my favorite years.
Well, I was just going to say, that was a more than impressive run in FCW. You were two-time FCW heavyweight champion, and then you debuted in the kind of rebranded NXT. You continued as Leo Kruger at that point, but this is where I was getting into the kind of your character changed a little bit. What was the driving force behind that? Who kind of helped decide that it should be more of a hunter mercenary character?
Well, I think initially when we did the very first one, I was pretty much still doing the King of Africa stuff. And I just think some people didn't understand that. And I mean, they were saying, well, he can't be the King of Africa, so what is he? Is he like a representative from the, so they didn't really get it. So then I actually went and created actually shot a little tape of the Leo Kruger character myself and gave it to Dusty Rhodes. And this was once again to show differences and to show range, and did the accent and everything else. And it was actually based on South African militia and mercenaries that one of my uncles was actually in, and it was based on that specific person. And I took a lot of things from him and recreated that character from that.
Sure. Now, why do you think NXT or WWE officials decided to pull the plug on Kruger?
Many reasons. I don't think there was ever a full connection with the audience and the character anyway. But and I think one of the major disconnects was the fact that if Leo Kruger was 6'6" and 310 pounds, he would have connected more. I think at 6'1" and 210, it wasn't going to. And then the fact that I think Bray Wyatt had just debuted, so anything creepy was not going to get launched. Anything that would be in competition with that was not going to go anywhere from that point. So then they said, you're back to the drawing board. You got literally, I think I was told you got 2 weeks. Figure something out of you.
Wow. That's no pressure or anything, right?
Oh, super pressure. Absolute unreal pressure.
Now, what were your thoughts on, at that time, it was kind of, NXT was still like the wrestling's best kept secret. So what were your thoughts about the rabid NXT audience then? Were you happy with the, people's reaction to the stuff you would do?
Totally different audiences. I think that's what we all figured out. I mean, it's just totally different audiences. At the time it was anyway. I think now, the fact that NXT is as, it's got so much viewership now, I think that's changed. But back then, NXT was still, only certain people saw it. Only really hardcore wrestling fans were watching it. And so the audiences is that you go to WWE have a lot of general fans in it. And it was just all like... it was just different audiences, and I think they had a totally different reaction to it. I think if Adam Rose had debuted as a heel, we would have had a different response. We would have had a response we wanted. I think you can't have a character that's that quirky and that different and that ridiculous in some ways and expect the crowd to, make him a babyface.
Yeah.
Now, what were your initial thoughts, too, on, you just mentioned, too, Adam Rose, after being off NXT for a while, you re-debuted as Adam Rose.
Yeah.
Now, what were your thoughts on this character change, and how much input did you have with your character?
What do you mean, in NXT or in WWE?
Yeah, in NXT.
NXT, I had a lot to do with it, and I think me and Dusty had pretty much the same vision on where to take it. But I wasn't in NXT very long, and I think everyone knows it was pretty much rushed up to the main roster. And I mean, I think at the time it was done because I was also wanting to rush up to the main roster. I've been in developmental for so long, and I wasn't getting any younger. I wanted to get something going, and I think they did too. And I was told from the beginning that it was a mid-card push, and I was told from the beginning that it wasn't going to be, one of these big main event pushes. It just wasn't. And I was okay with that at the time because I'd been in developmental for so long. That was the goal. I was trained to continually be trying to get to the main roster. That's how you train. Your mindset is, I've got to get there, I've got to get there, I've got to get there. I don't know if it's the same mindset anymore in NXT, considering that NXT has grown and is now basically a product that could stand on its own 2 feet. I don't know if the mindset still is as much driven to get out.
Okay. Now, we were hearing rumblings of this before you debuted in NXT as Adam Rose, about how that you were being repackaged and there was this whole character change and that you were supposed to be similar to Russell Brand.
Yes.
Were you being told that too, or was that just something that...
No.
Okay, so you were being... Okay, so...
When I created the character, I based a lot of it on Russell Brand, and I borrowed from certain people's, and I think I based a lot of it on Russell Brand, but it needed to be edgy, and it needed to have that nightclub-like type vibe and feel to it, and I think we got that right on NXT. I think once we got to the main roster, somewhere along the line, we became Sesame Street, and I think that was pretty much the beginning of the end, I mean, I know, I remember coming out and looking back and seeing the hot dog and thinking, okay, this isn't really what we had in mind, and it's just that's how things happen, and it's not intentional. It's not like anyone's trying to damage anything. It's just you become an interpretation or someone's interpretation of your specific character, which isn't necessarily what it was ideally in the beginning.
Sure. Were you given any ideas on how popular you were becoming, as far as, anywhere from T-shirt sales to social media, etc.? Did they tell you about that? As far as how much the character's getting over?
I mean, that's just the one thing I could say. They're extremely honest. It's not like they're not honest about what's going on. Like, I could tell by crowd reactions and right out the bat that, okay, I need to turn heel, like, almost instantaneously. I feel like a lot of the time we wait too long to capitalize on specific things. Like, something will reach its peak and we'll wait beyond it before we try to capitalize upon it, and then we lose momentum that way. And it's just, it's like with the bunny reveal. If we ever did that, we'd already taken too long, because by the time I actually attacked the bunny, the crowd was actually cheering me for it. So it was, it's amazing how quickly that curve is. And if you don't catch it perfectly on the curve, then it's not going to work out.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'll say that one of the things that irked me the most about your debut, I was actually at your debut on Raw in Albany, New York, and I was really upset that they switched your theme song from the original one in NXT, The World Goes Wild. I think that the one you had was good, but the original one was great. Did they just not want to pay for the rights, or what happened with that?
I'm not exactly sure. It might have been a copyright issue. I'm not exactly sure. I know that I think a lot of the time WWE just likes to produce their own stuff. Mm-hmm. I don't think they want to take on other people's stuff. I think it was at the beginning of NXT characters starting to get their own stuff done for them, Yeah. So I don't know. It could have been a copyright issue. I'm not sure, but I was told. And the first song did definitely have much more of the exact. I think the song correlated with the character better than the second song did.
Sure. Now, Adam, if you could go back and change anything about your debut on the main roster, maybe how it was handled or anything like that, is there anything on your mind that you would love to just change and go back in time?
On the main roster?
Mm-hmm.
Probably, if I had the opportunity to redo everything again, probably debut as a heel. I think if I could control that and go back in time, I think one of the things I would have done is debuted as a heel, and then possibly try to keep that edgy nightclub vibe to it, rather than us becoming Sesame Street with the hot dogs and things like. I don't know how it went that far out with that, but it's like in NXT the character had like a certain vibe to it, and it was cool and it was different and it was edgy, and I think people could buy in. And then once you're seeing a hot dog, and I don't know what else was out there. There was a sausage and all sorts of different stuff, and it's I think from that point on it's not gonna have the same feel,
Yeah, exactly. Now we have a fan question. Somebody submitted this, and they Tony Nagel asked, do you think that Leo Kruger would have done better than Adam Rose if he was brought up to the main roster?
I do. I do think that Leo Kruger would have done better. I think that I wish that Leo Kruger had been exposed to that audience, if you understand, because I feel then we could go back to pursuing that. But I think the fact that Leo Kruger was never, ever exposed to that audience, and only like really diehard wrestling fans ever saw that, I don't think he's worth, exploring again. I think maybe down the line, but I personally thought there was nothing wrong with Kruger. I thought it was a fantastic character. I do wish that I was 6'6" and 310. I think that would have made them move that character up. But I do think that the fact that I was smaller, that character, there was a disconnect with the audience,
Sure. Another fan question. This time it's about the Rosebuds. Vinny Martone asks, other than Road Dogg, who are some other wrestlers who appeared as Rosebuds that maybe we might not have known?
Rosebuds? I'm trying to think. I mean, the original crew out of NXT had Simon Gotch in it, and Braun Strowman, believe it or not. And who else? I'm trying to think. Of the original crew, I mean, pretty much the NXT roster that wasn't being used at the time was put in it. And then on the road, it was, just about a lot of the guys you've seen before. On the indie scene, top guys from the indie scene, some top guys from the indie scene. I apologize for that. But anyway, it was, It was fun. I mean, I think it was like a fun experience to do. I mean, the energy level was high, and we had fun with it. It's just, I think the character was too quirky and too different to try and push on an audience and say, like this guy. I think it's better letting characters like that evolve with the crowd, where the crowd initially is going to be put off by something like that. Over time, they will fall in love with certain parts of such a quirky character. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Yeah. Now, you spoke a little bit about the bunny. Obviously, that was, like you said, maybe it was a little too late. But were you given some sort of goal for what was supposed to happen with that storyline, or were you just kind of told to go out there and fight with this bunny?
Well, I mean, we weren't sure where that story was going for a long time, and I don't think anyone knew really where to take it because they didn't feel like you wanted to put a major star in it because it was Adam Rose, and I wasn't high enough in the card to do that. They didn't want to put just a nobody in it because then we wouldn't get a reaction. So it was sort of like one of those where do we go with this things, and there was a bunch of names thrown around, but I think at the end the easiest thing to do at the time, because they did not know how to pay it off, and I think it became frustrating enough that we just sort of wrote it off, and which to me was a tragedy because I thought that was the one part where even that ridiculousness got some momentum, and that could have been a nice debut for somebody, or it could have been anybody that I wanted it to be somebody who was out of the business for a long time. It was, would have looked realistic, would have been looking for some sort of work, and we could have used that as a story. That's what I wanted it to be, but at the end of the day, they let it just disappear. And I think at the time it was the safest thing to do, and I understand that.
Now, just kind of a follow-up to that, you've mentioned it a couple times where they told you right away that you're going to be a mid-card guy, and you just mentioned how they weren't going to put a lot of stuff behind it because it was Adam Rose. Does that not seem to you like it ends up being a self-fulfilling prophecy? If they tell you that you're only going to do you think that maybe not you, and I'm not asking you to name names or anything, but don't you think that after a while of superstars and women's wrestlers hearing that, that they may just not want to try any harder if they're constantly being told that they're going to stay at a certain level?
I think that would apply to anybody else but WWE wrestlers, and the reason I say that is because we are such a unique breed of performer. We're continually looking to make something work. I think that's how we trained. I mean, I was always trained by William Regal and all of them, that even if you're given something and they say, all right, this is mid-card and this isn't going to do this, you do the best you can with it.
Yes.
And you do the best with whatever you're given, to your abilities. Certain handcuffs are on and certain restraints are on, but you're doing the best you can with whatever you're dealt. And I think every superstar has that opinion. Even if they're given something ridiculous, they'll do it to the best of their ability. And that's something that you have to respect in our craft, because not all people do that.
Sure. Now, it seems that WWE was constantly changing your direction while you were there. Prior to you becoming a part of the Social Outcasts, it seems that you were going to be doing something else with the Rosebush. Is there anything you can tell us about what was supposed to happen there?
I'm not sure exactly what the idea with the Rosebush was. I know that the first one was great, and then it sort of didn't get any legs from there. But once again, it's like we're in this tough position where we can go for superstars, like we can go hard on them, like we did in the first one, or we can go Sesame Street on them and get no reaction. And we don't want to go too hard on the superstars because we would damage them. And so it was like this weird spot of we're trying to dish the dirt without hurting them. And then I think there was too many restraints in what we could say and what we couldn't say. And I think the first one we were given free reign, and the second one you were sort of like, you're not allowed to do this, you're not allowed to do that, you're not allowed to say this, you're not allowed to say that. And then that would hinder the show having any sort of momentum. But I mean, I don't know if there was any end game with that. A lot of that I think was just, oh, well, he could do that. Oh, well, he could try this. And it was me too. I was trying things out. Like the entire party poop idea was mine. And I loved doing that stuff because I could come out and tell the audience to leave the building. It was insane, and it was a lot of fun. And it was like, why not try the complete opposite of the character? Let's go to completely the parallel, complete opposite of what that character would have been. Mm-hmm. And everything there is just when you're like mid-card and you're at that level, you're just trying to make the best of whatever you're given. And if you're not given something, you're trying to give them something. And that's how pretty much how you make a career is just continually reviving or reinventing yourself at that level, I think. Other top stars don't go through that, but I think at that level, you're continually trying to reinvent yourself.
Okay. Now, shortly after all the Adam Rose, what we were just speaking about there, you became part of the Social Outcast. It was you, Heath Slater, Bo Dallas, and Curtis Axel, all great talents in my opinion. Were you happy to get paired with them, and how exactly was this formed too? Was this kind of just thrown together by you guys or thrown together from WWE?
Oh, that was completely the WWE's idea. We were told, I think, 5 o'clock on a Monday that we were going to be a group. And I think the idea is that we were a group. I mean, we were like the island of misfit toys. I mean, there's a bunch of guys that were just not, I don't think we had much TV time happening between any of us. And so at that point, I think it was, well, let's put them together collectively and see what they do. And we didn't know really what to do with it. And I think that's what created, I think, in some ways, some of the magic chemistry between the characters was the fact that we didn't really know what to do with each other and get along. And the fact that we were always like stepping on each other's toes and trying to get more camera time than the other guys. I still believe that group had possibilities. I think it was just a matter of where they were directed.
Sure. Now, wrestling fans were also saddened to hear that you requested your release from WWE. However, it seems that you are now busier than ever, especially this weekend with ESS Promotions. You'll be at East Coast Pro Wrestling on Friday, New York Wrestling Connection on Saturday, also the Wrestling Universe as well this weekend, and also UWA Elite on July 9th. For more information, people can head on over to ESSpromotions.com. What are you most looking forward to on the indie scene right now with a lot of these wrestlers coming up? And is there anybody out there that you're excited to meet, to match up with?
I think for me, this is really exciting because this is a part of professional wrestling I never got to be involved in. Coming from South Africa, I only got involved in that scene, really, in the African scene. I never got to experience the American indies. And for me, that's exciting. And then also, I think I have a point to make and some things to prove with regards to, okay, this is what the WWE put me at, but I want to prove that I'm better than that, and I want to prove that in ring specifically I'm better than that. And then got some people that know me know that, people that are, but it's like I want to be able to prove to myself, I guess, and to the rest of the world that Adam or Aldo Rose is better than that, and you will see that. And I think Joey Ryan is somebody I have to face at some point if anyone's man enough to book it. But because I think that will be absolutely insane. But yes, I actually just want to prove myself to myself and prove myself to wrestling fans that pay good money to see shows. I want to say to them, look, I'm worth every cent. That's sort of what I want to prove.
Definitely.
Well, now you obviously mentioned some of the places or some of the people that you'd like to wrestle, but we have a fan question. Louis Gennaro asks, do you have any plans to visit Ring of Honor, TNA, or Lucha Underground in the future?
Well, I mean, I can't talk about that and stuff like that yet, but
okay.
Obviously I have goals, and I want to experience every aspect of this business. And I mean, obviously I'm already in talks with regards to where my future goes, but I think I just want to experience everything that can possibly be experienced. Like I've got the European tour coming up in October, and I'm going to be there almost for a month, and so that's like, it's something, experiencing that side of things. And like Adam or Aldo Rose was very much received well in the United Kingdom, so it'll be cool to go there and be with those fans who always seem to get it if what I was trying to present.
Definitely. Now, you were the artist formerly known as Adam Rose, now currently going by Aldo Rose. Is there any significance to this name change, and were there any other names being thrown around?
Oh, yeah, I had a couple. I just like the name Aldo. I think it's got a good sound to it. And funnily enough, I like the name Aldo. I think the two-syllable name is always a good thing. It's really simple how you come up with this stuff. And I also think it's very close to Aldis, so I think that's good too. But I like the name August for some reason. And then someone said to me, no, that's a horrible idea. And I was like, okay, no, that is a horrible idea. So I think we went with Aldo. But the character's not going to be 100% the same because the restraint's off. And it doesn't have to be Sesame Street anymore. And it's going to have that edge that I always wanted to it. And I think audiences should look forward to that, seeing Aldo Rose the way I wanted him packaged.
Lightning round.
Favorite match of your wrestling career so far?
Justin Gabriel was in a live event.
All right. Who sang the better song about a rose? Was it Poison, Every Rose Has Its Thorn, or Seal, Kissed by a Rose?
Poison.
All right. Now, this is a pretty tough question here, but who would win in a fight, Aldo Rose or Muscles Marinara?
I think Muscles was completely crazy.
What are your thoughts on Axl Rose?
I love the band.
Okay. Name one thing you miss about South Africa.
Durban Beach.
Right. Hobbies outside of wrestling?
I have 2 rambunctious children. I have no hobbies. I have no time to do anything else. Yeah. Sorry.
No, that's totally acceptable.
Okay.
Now that you've, for at least for the time being, shut your door on your WWE career, when you look back and consider everything you did there, what is your favorite moment in the WWE? What's your greatest accomplishment you think personally?
It would have to be the first time Adam Rose was in front of the United Kingdom audience. I mean, England. I think that was probably the best, and it was like early on, but that was like the best we saw, I think, of Adam. And then I think it sort of dwindled from there. So the high point would probably be that.
Well, once again, I want to remind everybody, too, this weekend, this Friday night, Saturday, East Coast Pro Wrestling, New York Wrestling Connection, the Wrestling Universe, and UWA Elite. Head on over to ESSpromotions.com for more information. Aldo, in the world of social media, where can people keep up with you these days? And I also hear there's a Pro Wrestling Tees site for you, too, for some shirts.
Yeah, just go look for Aldo Rose, and we've got a bunch of shirts, about 5 shirts on there. They are really cool. I got to give a shout out to Migs Media One, who was the artist on them, and then it's @Aegis_Rose, where you will find me on Twitter. And I just, to all the audiences out there, all wrestling fans out there, I am going to prove once and for all that I am worth every freaking cent.
Well, we want to thank you so much for coming on today, and we look forward to seeing everything that you do, and we look forward to actually having you back on at some point too.
Thank you. I've had a lot of fun. I would love to come back.